like 30 seconds ago, but I think I'm now live. I think I should actually be live now. It is moist outside. It is moist outside. It is moist outside. Don't you just love that word, moist? Here we go. What is up, everybody? I'll try to read chat. I don't have the best setup right here, but how are we doing? Welcome in, everybody. Jake, Christy, Sprinkles, Roadster, Jim. Welcome in. Guys, Chef Andy, how are we doing? We got our observations right here. Look at this. You can see Missouri, mid-70s, southwest Missouri, dew points almost up to 60. It is very, 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 very moist outside. It is very hot. My room is now in the upstairs portion of the house, so it gets warm up here in the upstairs. My room used to be in the basement, and it was very nice to have a room in the basement. It was the temperature was very controlled all year long. Now it's like I'm in upstairs. It's very hot, but we can handle it. So here's what we're dealing with here. We'll go to the SPC site, and I'll just give you guys a rundown of some of these days. And look at this. Look at these graphics. These are the brand new graphics that the Storm Prediction Center has rolled out here. And this is really, really, really cool. So now you don't need a 10% tornado risk to get a hatch. You can now get a hatch with a 5% risk. But yeah, welcome in, Marianne. How's it going? Guys, let me know where you're watching from. Smash that like button. I think we have like 30 of you guys in here. Smash that like button. Let me know where you're watching from. It is hot in here. I'm sweating. But this is really cool. Look at this. Wow, they even have the hatch on the 5%. That's crazy. They're showing off the new. These graphics are cool. I'm glad that I like to have the population overlaid onto the graphics, so I'm glad you can still do that. These are very nice, clean graphics tomorrow. No hatching for tomorrow, and then I wonder what it looks like Thursday. This is cool. There's the hatch for Thursday. Look at that. They have the hatch all the way into the marginal risk. They used to not be able to do that. I'm as a storm chaser, I'm most intrigued by Thursday. And here's our risk Thursday. We got a big 30% Kansas City down to the Red River. I don't really think it should be a 30%, and I'm going to tell you guys why in a minute. I think it should be a 15. I think that the 30% a little bit premature. I think looking at the models yesterday when we went live yesterday, I think this totally supported a 30%, but I think the models last evening right after we were live, some of the new models came in, and I think that it really kind of changed my view of the setup a little bit. Watching from Jackson, Michigan. We got Southwest Missouri, Memphis, Denton, Texas. Yeah, the SPC graphics are so much better than before. So much better than before. They were suffering before, but they're a lot better now. I'm drinking some Diet Dr. Pepper, man. This stuff tastes like, I don't like this stuff that much. I need to get my Coke Zero back. I don't like, guys in the chat, what do you like more? Do you like Diet Coke, Diet Dr. Pepper, Coke Zero? I think that Coke Zero is the best as far as the diet soda goes, but okay, I don't even know where to start. I guess we can start looking at, we could start, we can take a look at, we'll have to go to the 12Z. Let's take a look at our 500 millibar pattern. So these are the winds about 3.5 miles above the surface, about 6 kilometers up. We got Dallas in here. Nice. We got, how's it going to be for Joplin this weekend? Rainy. Friday around Joplin, we got to watch out for the tornado threat Friday, but I'm very uncertain on how this is going to go down. Very uncertain. So here's our little wave tomorrow, and there's going to be a little bit of severe weather in here. There's going to be a little bit of severe weather in here, but I'm not expecting much, and there's even going to be a little bit down here. where you have more to the south, you have more moisture, more instability, but you're a little bit removed from the main trough. The main trough is up here, and it actually isn't a bad looking trough right here. It's just you have those overnight storms are pushing the outflow down here. You'd want to see a threat for this kind of trough. You'd think you'd maybe see a threat somewhere up here, but I think the outflow from the storms tonight and tomorrow morning are going to push the warm sector all the way down here. And that's going to be removed a little bit from the best forcing. But here we go. Thursday. This trough, it's a little bit late, but it's just in time, starts to roll in here. Your dry line is going to be positioned somewhere right in here. And you have a short wave that's going to impinge on this dry line. And I think that you should fire off supercells from southwest Kansas down to about the Red River. Right in here. This is the area that I'm watching on Thursday. I think this is going to be a pretty good chase. You're going to want to tune in. You're going to want to tune in to our chase on Stormrunner Media, our live chase on Thursday. I think it's going to be a pretty good chase, and it could go into the after dark hours, but we'll have to watch. But this, I like this setup. You have enough flow over the dry line, have enough forcing to get storms right there. And if we can go, we can look here. I'm going to break down Thursday's setup first. We'll do a chronological order here. You can see here's your low-level jet. So when I say low-level jet, that is your winds probably about a mile, maybe even less above the surface. You see your low-level jet out of the south, strong winds, strong low-level jet. You can see even holes that the GFS is trying to fire a storm right there in that hole. Right there, that's where the GFS is trying to fire a storm. But you have your surface wind out of the southeast, your low-level jet out of the south, and then your upper-level winds out of the southwest. And that creates that spin. Get those perpendicular winds on top of each other. That creates that spin. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute here when we pull a sounding. You also have height falls over the warm sector, so your heights are falling and they're not rising. Height falls, better for storms. That means your pressure's dropping. Good for storm development. And you can see the GFS. This is just the GFS, but the GFS, look at that. It does fire off storms here. These will probably be a little bit farther to the west, but the GFS is showing it. The new GFS is coming in. We can look at this in a minute. So I want to talk about, you know what? I'm going to talk about tomorrow really, really quick here. Before I get too carried away with the other days, we're going to talk about tomorrow. Here's the HRRR model. So here we go. Storms fire tonight. You could see a large, I don't want to do that. You could see a large hail threat late tonight after midnight up here, northern Oklahoma, southern Kansas. Not a big deal. So we go through. Here's what's going to be here's going to be the question for tomorrow. Do we have a line of storms? This is at noon. Do we have a line of storms right here that's going to be working its way east or not? The HRRR says no, just kind of some scattered thunderstorms. And it tries to redevelop some stuff in the afternoon, but it doesn't really get going. These are not very strong. And then you might get a couple supercells down here, actually southwest of Dallas, near Dallas, southwest of Dallas. You could get a couple supercells down here, mostly a hail and wind threat, but there is a non-zero shot at a tornado somewhere in here. One of these storms could maybe try to rotate, produce a tornado. I actually like the environment up in Missouri, I believe it was. Here, I'll take a sound. This environment up here in Missouri is not too bad. It's pretty good, actually. This is a good looking profile. You have a curved hodograph, a good curved hodograph with some winds aloft. You have very skinny cape here. Your lapse rates are very poor at the surface, so that's your problem. But you actually have a pretty good shear profile here. You have better moisture in Cape farther south into Texas. See, look, you have more Cape. Look at how much. Here's your between this red line and this dotted white line is your instability. You have more Cape down here in Texas, but your shear's not very favorable. Not much shear. Not much upper level shear. Not much upper level shear. Your hodograph's very small, but you have much better low level thermos. So honestly, like I'm kind of keeping my eye on both of these locations, but as of right now, I don't have any expectation to chase tomorrow as it stands. But I'm keeping my eye on it just in case. And then this model goes out to noon. This is a little worrisome right here. Actually, if this is correct, this goes out to noon on Thursday. This could be the problem for Thursday. Look at how cold. You have low 50-degree temperatures right here in the spot where we're supposed to try to get tornadoes. That's not good. Now, whether this is right or not, I think it's probably a lot of low-level clouds. Lots of low-level clouds here. So temperatures look pretty good out here to the west, but lots of low-level clouds right here. That's a problem. That could inhibit your moisture from coming north. And the storms from tomorrow night. Here's the storms from tomorrow night pushing south. How is that going to limit your moisture return? Moisture return such a big deal this time of year. This is not a good look. If this is correct, I think you're going to have some problems Thursday getting things to get going. Look at how much different this model is. This model has those upper 50 dew points, mid to upper 50 dew points in this area already. It's not very blocked off. And your temperatures, see, look, this model. So this model has temperatures in the upper 60s, low 70s at noon. This model by noon has things in the lower 50s. That's a big difference. So if the HRRR is right, you're not going to see much of a threat Thursday. And if you do, it's going to be confined farther west or farther south towards the Red River. So this model's coming in right now. I want to see that model. But let's talk about Friday. (18Z) GFS has better moisture. Well, we can look at the 18. Actually, you know what? Let's look at the 18Z GFS coming in for Thursday. Yeah, I mean, look, by noon, there's upper 50s up to the Kansas border, and you have... Yeah, I mean, that looks fine. It's just the HRRR doesn't look very good, so we'll have to monitor that. The Rufus kind of shows the same thing. So that's certainly... And it recovers. It starts to recover in the afternoon. You can see it starts to recover in the afternoon, but you can still see it's a little stable over here to the east. A little bit of stability going on. But it does start to recover. We're just going to look at a random... let's go look at a sounding like right here. Look at a random sounding. Nicely looped hodographs in the low levels. That is good. That is good. Pretty skinny cape, but overall a pretty good profile. Decent EML, just enough. Good moisture in the low levels. That's a good look. So we just have to watch, do those low-level clouds. If those low-level clouds in the morning are a little bit, do they stick around too much? If these low-level clouds stick around too much right here in the eastern Texas Panhandle, that could be a problem, and that is something we'll watch as storm chasers especially. The Impasse has a really nice environment there. across eastern Texas Panhandle, but this could be more of an after dark thing even. Wouldn't be surprised. All right, GFS, let's go look at it. And it's going to be loading in Friday pretty quick as well. So you can see here, this is a 700 millibar pattern. So this is more like 2 or 3 miles up in the atmosphere, maybe like 2. There's a little shortwave right here. There's a shortwave right here that's pushing in here. That's going to ignite storms along that dry line right there. Still a really good low-level jet. You know, we could look at a photograph on this model. I bet it's going to look good even on the GFS. Look at that. Big loopy photograph. Big loopy photograph. That's how you get strong tornadoes right there. Now, of course, you need everything else to come together, but there's certainly a shot at a strong tornado Thursday. Not tomorrow, but Thursday. There's certainly a shot. And, okay, I want to talk about Friday because that's the bigger day, potentially the bigger day. So there's some massive differences between the Euro and the GFS. So last night, I was telling you guys the Euro and the GFS, they agree. Well, not anymore. That's over with now. They do not agree with each other anymore. So let's go compare the two. And there's major differences here to be had. So once again, I'm looking at the 500 millibar pattern. So about 3.5 miles above the surface. And we're looking at this. And there's big differences right here in these patterns right here. So here's the GFS. This is the GFS for Friday evening, 6 p.m. Look at this nice trough ejection. This is a very nice trough ejection. You have a closed low right here at 500 millibars. You have a negative tilt even to your trough. You have winds right here out of the south, winds out here out of the southwest. That is creating what we call defluence. And so what happens is that causes the air to stretch. And whenever the air stretches, something has to fill its place. So that is called defluence, and that helps you get lift and ascent for storms. That is very good to see. And then you even have a good amount of flow further down south, all the way into northeast Oklahoma, south Kansas. You have enough flow for supercells. Actually, you have enough flow for supercells all the way down to the Red River. This is a pretty good look right here. Now, the Euro looks different. Here's the Euro. There's no closed off low. So see how there's no closed off low? You don't have defluence. The winds right here are out of the southwest. The winds right here out of the southwest. There's no defluence. See that? Your trough is flat. It's not curling up. I want to see that trough kind of curl in. So I want to see these ones right here curling up this way. And then out this way. That's what I want to see. I want to see that defluence. You don't have that. It's a very flat trough ejection. So it's a decently strong wave, but it's still it's what I would call flat. So if we can see a surface low, I'm not a surface low, an upper level low develop right here, and this gets a little bit more kick to it, a little bit more defluence. But that's what it had yesterday at this. You go back 24. Look at what I had 24 hours ago. There's 24 hours ago. It had that low, and look at this. You can see the winds out here out of the southwest right here. Had that defluence, had that kick, had that amplification. That's just gone. That is just gone now. So we go to this run, it's gone. GFS still has it, but the thing is, the GFS is. We'll go look at some of the other models. The Canadian model looks a lot like the Euro. There's a little bit more amplification right here. You see these ones right here. Maybe a little bit of an upper level low somewhere in Colorado. But it looks a lot more like the Euro. The Icon's different than both the GFS and the Euro, but it has a little bit more of a flatter trough ejection than the GFS does. The Icon actually pushes some of this upper level flow more down here. Instead of grazing the warm sector down south, it kind of goes right over it. So that's interesting. We can look at the 18. And then the 18Z icon looks even different from the one before. But here, this is a better look right here. There's actually a little bit, you can see your upper level low right here, and you have some of that diffluence. Is it diffluence or divergence? Is there a meteorologist in here that can? I always get diffluence and divergence confused. I think it's very similar, but so that's interesting right there. So none of these models look alike. Near the GFS is coming in still. This is crazy. The GFS is like even more amped up. So it's funny. The Euro is showing a flat. This is just wild. The Euro is showing a flat, uneventful trough. And then you go to the GFS, and instead of trending towards the Euro, the GFS is just trending more and more amped. Like, what is happening? Look at this. Look at this trough ejection right here. Strong negative tilt. Lots of diffluence. Look at that. You got winds out of the southeast right there, south right here, southwest right here. This is big time right here. Now, this is at noon. We'll see how it progresses throughout the day, but this is big time. Look at your low-level jet. You have a massive 850 millibar cyclone. You have 50-plus knots just a mile above the surface. That is a huge low-level jet. That is transporting all of that moisture to the north. This GFS run is gearing up to show a really big setup. It's gearing up to show a really, really big setup. It keeps getting more amped. The other models keep getting less amped. So it's like, what the heck? What the heck do you believe? What the heck do you believe in? This is even more amped. Look at this. Here's the last run. Pretty amped up. This run, it's even more amped up. So I don't even know what, guys, I don't even know what to think. I don't even know what to think anymore. I don't know what to think anymore about these models. It's like, okay, it's still a pretty good environment across the area. So I really like, so your favorite, with a trough like this, your favorite region would probably be up here in northwestern Iowa. But it looks like you're going to have instability concerns, so you might have to hope something pops off down in the East Kansas, where you have really good looking photographs. But it's just so odd. Like, I don't know what to think anymore. My gut tells me that this system is going to be a wasted system, and as far as chasing goes, we're not going to have anything super great to chase. What's up, Levi? What's up, dude? Yeah, my gut tells me Friday is going to be a wasted trough, but we'll see. So here's the other difference. All right, we haven't even gotten into this yet. So this is a big difference right here we're going to look at here. These models are in battle right now. Okay, here's the Euro at 6 p.m. I'm going to draw your cold front. This is your cold front. So your cold front has gone well through Omaha. It's about to go through Des Moines. Here's your dry line. Your dry line's all the way west of Oklahoma City. Your cold front's almost on the doorstep of Wichita at this point. Okay. We go to our GFS. On the GFS, the cold front's all the way out in central Nebraska. Your dry line is all the way up. Your dry line hasn't even gone through Omaha yet. Your dry line's farther east, all the way towards Oklahoma City and Bartlesville and Wichita. So look at this difference. I mean, this is the GFS. Dry line farther east. Cold front still up here. Euro cold fronts crashed the whole warm sector by 6 p.m. GFS, just totally different. I mean, this is why it's difficult to forecast. GFS does fire storms along the dry line. If the GFS is right, this is going to be a really nice, solid chase day. Firestorms on the dry line, it looks like, from southeast Kansas up into Nebraska and Iowa. And then you got a snowstorm on the backside. If the Euro's right, There's storms all over. There's storms all along the cold front. Like there will be a lot of severe storms, and then we have to watch these storms out ahead. So if the Euro's right, these are the storms I'd want to be on out ahead of the cold front. I wouldn't want to be on these storms with the crashing front. That cold air from the crashing cold front is going to undercut the storms, and then they're not going to be able to produce tornadoes. But yeah, the models are not agreeing. Shocker, shocker. And look at the Euro too. The Euro has a snow event going on in the Colorado foothills. GFS, nothing close to that. I mean, just completely different. But even with the Euro still having a lower end solution, it actually still has a good environment across a lot of these areas. Here's a sounding. That's a terrible sounding, actually. The Euro might just be chalked, as the good old Brady Harris would say. I think the Euro's not depicting the environment right because there's a bunch of storms ongoing at this point. Okay, here's a sounding near Joplin, where I'm at. You have a nicely curved hodograph. Winds out of the southwest. That's probably not accurate. Decent thermos right there. I think the Euro's a little off. I think the GFS is a little off. I think that the right scenario's in between. Let's look at the doofus. How about that? How about we look at the doofus and see even the doofus this morning was way different than this afternoon. So it's already changed. It's already changing. It has no idea either. The doofus has no idea either. But what it does do is it does have that cold front a lot farther to the north. The Euro has it like down here. The doofus has it a little farther to the north. And then the dry line is really weird. There's a lot of mixing going on. That's probably not accurate, but let's take some soundings on this model. It's a really good environment. It shows I don't know what's going on here. You have a warm nose at the surface. That's probably not right, but it has a really good environment across southern Kansas, eastern Oklahoma. Really, these are very nice hodographs right here. You can get very strong tornadoes with a hodograph like that. Nice and curved in the low levels. 40 knot low level jet. It's a little wonky. I think this I don't really look at this model in general. I think it's a very wonky model, but this is what it's showing. Okay, this is a much better sounding near the dry line. This is very conducive for a photogenic tornado right here. I know we soundings are very complex. I don't know if I'm going to break them down too much on this stream, but we can talk about them. And then these storms on the cold front, you're going to have a shot for some tornadoes with these storms along the cold front. They're just going to get undercut very quickly. So any tornado you'd have would probably be very brief. But the thing is that these models are totally different. That's my point here. It's hard to know what to expect when these models are so vastly different. It's just very hard to know exactly what to anticipate. Or one other model is still not loaded in much. This model's trash, but how about this? We'll look at it for fun. Look at this. This is Thursday. It's got a bunch of supercells firing all across Texas, western Oklahoma. Yes, at like 4 p.m., there's just supercells firing. Texas Panhandle. So we're about to get a lot of models in tonight. We're going to get a lot of models in tonight for this area. You know what? I don't know. I'm going to be gone, but if I get home at a decent time, I might go live again tonight. If I get... Yeah, so the Rufus model, it's called the RRFS, and people just say Rufus for short. I call it the Doofus because I don't think it's a very good model, and I don't like that model, especially 84 hours out. Your better models 84 hours out. So here's all your model options. Why, this is a nice little So if you want to, this website's Pivotal Weather. It's a great website. I've been using it for, I don't know, 6 years. So you have different kinds of models. You have global models. So that's like your GFS, your Euro, your Icon. These models go out 2 weeks. Some of them go out 2 weeks. The resolution's lower, so you don't want to use these models within 48 hours of a storm system. You want to use them 50 to about 150 hours out. Anything over 150 hours out is kind of la la land, and you just kind of have to pay attention to the trends. And then you have regional models. I use the wrap. That's a model you use within 50 hours, and I do use the wrap. Actually, the wrap is coming in the range. I think by the end of the stream, we'll be able to look at the wrap for Thursday. But I use the wrap. I don't bother using the NAM. Some people like the NAM. I don't like the NAM. It's actually getting decommissioned because it's not very good. But I use the wrap. And then you have convective allowing. So I refer to these as CAMs. You have convective allowing models right here. So this is your HRRR, your NAM 3K, your WRF ARW, your WRF NSSL, FV3. There's the doofus model right there, the RRFS. I call it the doofus. You have an impasse. Then you have your 4 impasse models, which as far as the 84 hour, these models usually go 84 hours out. If you want to look 84 hours out at it's always a risk to look at convective allowing models 84 hours out. But if you ever want to, and the only ones that I would take into account are these 4 right here. The impasse models. They're not great, but they're better than the doofus model. But this is why. But the reason why you don't look at CAMs or even the HRRR 48 hours out, it's hard to take seriously because it's trying to project. So what happens, so basically when you're trying to predict the future, what happens 18 hours into the future is going to affect what happens 24 hours into the future, and what happens 24 hours into the future is definitely going to affect what happens 48 hours into the future, especially when it comes to weather. So if your models don't even know what's going to happen 18 to 20 hours out, you cannot expect them to be able to accurately portray what's going to happen 48 hours out until what happens 24 hours out comes into real time, and then the models will adjust. So this isn't honestly, for Thursday's setup, it's not as big of a deal. I actually think these models are going to be relatively accurate 48 hours out, but usually when you, so later on in the spring, when you have a lot of factors like overnight convection, morning convection, all this stuff, it gets very complex. But interesting. Let's see. Yeah, so the GFS does fire storms on that dry line. Also has another round of storms out here that we might have to watch, but I think that's going to be away from the greatest stuff. So this is just totally different. Totally different. These models have no idea what they're doing, no idea what they're talking about. Let's read. You know what? How about this? I'll read the SBC outlook. Let's see what they think. Here's our day 4 discussion right here. Let's see. A strong upper level system is forecast to eject northeastward into the central high plains on Friday as associated. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Warming surface temperatures and increasing low-level convergence will support scattered convective initiation west of the moist axis. Storms are expected to grow up scale in the mid to late afternoon, moving eastward. Strong deep layer shear steep lapse rates will be favorable for supercells. Supercells should be capable of producing tornadoes, large hail, and severe wind gusts. The greatest potential. They don't really give much of a detailed explanation, and they don't mention the model discrepancy. I wonder if tonight's outlook we'll see them mention the model discrepancies that are in place. I want this wrap. I don't know what to talk about while I'm waiting for this wrap. Come out. Let me talk to you guys in the chat. That's Mother Nature for you, 100%. Yeah, the fries are in the back. What's up, Justin? How's it going, Roadster Jim? How's it going, Candace? What is up, Double A3403? What is up? How's it going, everybody? Let me know where you're tuning in from. Please leave a like. I appreciate all of you guys And if you like these briefings, I'm going to be doing them quite a bit this year. So I would really want to see this model. But how about this? Why don't we look at some of the long range on the 12Z while we are waiting for that to come in? There's just, we're in a weird spot where we're like, it's weird that the models, as we get closer, are diverging away from each other. It's just very odd. And we're in a weird spot where like the global models have no idea what they're talking about, and we're a little bit too far to get a view of the convective allowing models. So we're in a weird like middle zone. We don't really have like the good models in, but it's like our other models are, we're in a tough spot. In like a couple of days, we're gonna have a much better handle on a lot of this. Okay, so here's that first system. So this is what we were talking about last night. So you have that first system that breaks off over the plains. That's giving us our threat Thursday and Friday. And then you have the second system that we call this a cutoff low. So this low was up here and it went down here. And now it's just going to sit here and spin. It's just going to sit there and spin down there. It's just going to sit there and spin. Here we go. This is here's Saturday, Sunday. Now we're into Monday. It's still sitting down there. Okay, Tuesday. It's starting to move east Tuesday very slowly. Okay, so now this model or this trough has started to move east. Tuesday, we have some flow across the Midwest and the plains. So we may have a severe threat up here on Tuesday. We also have our main jet stream up here. Here's our main jet stream. And here's our trough right here. So the question is, this cutoff low, how long does it sit there and spin near the Baja of Mexico? How long does it sit there and spin? Does it eject? Does it eject Monday? Does it eject Tuesday? Does it wait till Wednesday? It's a big question mark. Big question mark. But what I do know is ahead of this trough, there is going to be a massive warm sector, lots of moisture ahead of this trough. So we're going to have several days here. We can go back and even see this here. Look, we have let me move it. We have several days out ahead of this trough. We have several days out here for this moisture to get up from the Gulf. Several days here for moisture to get up here. And then here it ejects Tuesday. And then here's Wednesday. It ejects across the southern plains. You're probably going to have a severe threat across Texas on Wednesday. And then it's very slowly continues to eject to Thursday now across Dixie. Now, what's going to happen if this is so far out? I don't even know if this is going to happen. This is like 10 days. This is like 10 days away. So let's not take this for let's not take this at face value. See you, Levi. Have a good day. Let's not take this at face value. Let's let it play out and see. But if this happens, by this time, your environment down here is going to be very washed out. You're going to have a lot of storms ongoing. It's going to be very washed out. So I think the bigger potential day would be probably Tuesday as this trough starts to eject before everything gets washed out. But you'd have severe weather in this case, Wednesday, Thursday, and even Friday. So this would be like a 4-day severe weather stretch. And look at this. You have another trough. You have another big trough 2 weeks from now that it's showing. But who knows? We have no idea what the pattern is going to look like after about 7 to 10 days. But we're going to have to see how quickly does this trough eject. Let's look at the euro. Let's see what the euro does with this. Let's see if it differs. Okay, so here's that first system up. There's the second system. It has that cutoff. It sits there by Baja. It starts to eject it Monday, and then Tuesday, it really ejects the trough, and look at what happens. By Tuesday, your trough is sheared out. This trough up here is digging down, and it ruined this trough right here. So this trough up here is digging down from the Pacific Northwest, and it kind of ruins the progression of this trough down here. And that's going to lower your severe threat. Now, if you look at the GFS, we can go like this is a, I mean, if the differences are crazy for Friday, this is a crazy difference. Here's the euro. Here's the GFS. Look at the GFS still has a trough all the way back here. The euro already has it ejecting out here. And look at this. The GFS has this jet stream up here still. Whereas if we go to the euro, that jet stream to the north is diving down. That is a huge, huge difference. So another thing is this. This jet stream up here is going to probably dictate how long this trough down here sits there. So if this doesn't eject down south, then the trough down here might sit there a little bit longer. But that's our differences. Now that is about. This is a week away. So it's not too. Watching for Middle Tennessee. Welcome in, Ghosty Boy. How's it going, Candace? How are y'all doing? So it's not like a week out. I mean, this is kind of the expectation. These cutoff lows, these cutoff troughs, these Baja cutoffs are just always very, 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 very difficult to forecast a week out. Nobody knows what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. The models don't know what's going to happen. Your favorite meteorologist probably doesn't know what's going to happen. Maybe he or she has an idea, but we'll have to see this new GFS run. But you could see there by Monday is still. I wonder if we have a severe threat, though. You can see there's not much. The trough is still back here, so there's not much forcing to be had, but you have a big warm sector out here even by Monday. And if we go to the last run, it's pretty similar to the last run. You might even have storms firing up there in Illinois. This is next Monday. Yeah, it shows a couple storms out there. Yeah, but this would probably be the bigger day is Tuesday. As this Jackson, you get some flow up in this area. Let's see. Let's go to our EHI. I like using the EHIs. Yeah, but it's just weird. You don't have any EHI down here. It's all up here. It's all up here away. The trough is all the way back here, and all your EHI is all the way up here. So it's very displaced. I think it's going to be a very messy pattern. And you'd have a severe threat across Texas, like I was mentioning, but it's very marginal. And it's very marginal. A little cold core setup. It's just very, very marginal. Okay, the model I wanted to look at, our RAP model, is out, and it's a little bit concerning as far as our tornadoes go. So here's your shortwave right here. A few miles off the ground, you have a little shortwave right here. That should probably ignite some storms. But the problem is, look at how small your warm sector is. Your warm sector is pretty big down here, south of the Red River. But look at north of the Red River where your best dynamics are. Look at how skinny that warm sector is. That's too skinny of a warm sector to really bring any kind of big severe risk. So if the RAP is right, the play would have to be down into Texas. Looks like you're dealing with those cold temperatures. It looks like there's a cloud deck sitting right here. Looks like there's a cloud deck sitting right there. I bet if I pull a sounding down in Texas, it probably looks pretty good. Looks okay. But see, your photographs down to the south are not as curved. Less curving. You're probably eliminating any SIGTOR threat. Your threat is going to be where those photographs are more curved up here to the north. So, not a great look on the RAP for severe weather, but it's just the RAP. It's just a wrap. But this is a concern, what I'm seeing for Thursday's risk, what could really mitigate it. It's right here. We go to peak heating, 4 p.m. This is peak heating. Look at this area right here, socked in clouds. Socked in clouds. A tail as old as time. Every time I think we're about to have a good plane setup, there's always low-level clouds that come and ruin it. So we'll see if this time is any different or not. But we can look at the other models, and, well, they all show something very similar. There's the triple R. This area is socked in low-level clouds. The Rufus, a little bit less, but you can still see the temperature drop over here. So very, very concerning look with those low-level clouds. You can see your temperature and dew point. Your temperature dew point right here are touching each other right by the surface. That red and that green line touching each other. You have a big inversion. It's not favorable at all. So that's a big caveat to Thursday. So we're gonna have to see if this is over or under modeled. If it's over modeled, then we'll be talking about a bigger threat, obviously. Then I go to the impasse model, totally different. You have upper 60s, lower 70s. I tend to believe the triple R and the wrap, unfortunately. But I don't want to discount this model because it does show a different scenario. Yeah, so this has multiple supercells getting going here by dinner time, about 6 p.m. here. Right here, another big supercell up there, some more down here. And they kind of congeal, but you have a big one that gets going right here. And then you kind of get a big line of storms. And this line of, also another thing is this big line of storms moving. This is at 11 p.m. This big complex of storms is probably going to be able to maintain itself into Kansas and Oklahoma. And this is going to be a big question mark for the next day. This could affect the next day. So Thursday, that's my question. Let's see if the GFS. Okay, there's that cutoff low. It almost like retrograde. It sits there. It almost retrogrades back to the west. And then, okay, it has a pretty ugly ejection. So this is not very favorable for severe weather early next week, except I do think you'd probably get some up here with this jet streak right here. And I'm sure if we go look at the environment, I'm sure that's what it's going to show us. Yeah, look, there is an environment up here. And there's not much down here. So maybe we'll get a setup in Ohio that we need to go chase early next week. This is really good, actually. I'll just show you guys. This is a sounding right here. This is how I would break this sounding down before I wrap this up. I'm going to be out of here in like 10 minutes, but still going to stream for like another 10 minutes before I wrap this up. Hey, Haley, how's it going? Watching from Live Oak, Florida. Let's go. But this is the sounding. So you can see over here you got 1 kilometer, 3 kilometers, 6 kilometers, 9 kilometers. So this is up. So this graph goes up into the air. The farther right you go, the colder. I mean, yes, the farther right you go, the warmer or moisture it gets. The farther left you go on the graph, the colder, drier it gets. That's how it works. So up and down vertical throughout the atmosphere, right, left and right, colder, warmer, moisture. So your red line is your temperature line, of course, and your green line is that moisture line. So you can see that temperature is 72 at the surface. I don't know if you guys can read that little number, but it's 72 at the surface. And then your temperature gets progressively a little bit colder as it goes up throughout the atmosphere. See how your temperature line gets a little colder and your dew point gets a little drier as you go up into the atmosphere. Pretty typical. You can see your wind barbs right here. At the surface, you have a wind out of the southwest. You go up a little bit, your wind is almost out of the west. So your winds are changing with height, and that's also the hodograph. A little bit more complex hodograph, but here you can see here's your surface wind, here's your wind 1 kilometer up, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over here. But this hodograph gets a little bit messy as you go up. But you can see you have a very nice curve. You have a nice curve in the hodograph. This would be a tornado type of sounding. This is also a tornado type of sounding as well. Okay, so let's look at this other model. What's it showing? That's a big concern. This is a big concern right here. It's making me think that I'm going to have to be down here on Thursday. South, further away from the good dynamics. So your low-level jet's going to be a little bit... This model doesn't go out all the way, but we can go out to, 6 p.m. Your low-level jet's going to be a little bit more favored up here than down here. So I'd rather be up here to the north. Do I think a tornado outbreak's likely in Kearney on March 6th? No. Kearney, where is Kearney? Is that north central? Something like that, north central. Oh, I know where Kearney, Nebraska is. I forget about. Oh yeah, Kearney. I drive through Kearney, Missouri all the time. It's by KC. No, but if the GFS is right, you got to really watch out. Got to really watch out if the GFS is right. Got to really watch out. This is a good thing my location is not on this map. That's a good thing. I do not have my blue dot on. But okay, guys, I think that's gonna wrap it up. Well, let me go through this quick. Actually, Okay, this is what we're watching. Look at these new graphics by the SPC tomorrow. Very marginal threat. Wouldn't be surprised to see some supercells down in central Texas. Low end tornado threat. Same with Missouri. The environment actually looks okay down in Missouri. But I don't think the storms are going to quite come together tomorrow. Thursday's the day we're really watching. If we get a layer of low clouds, it could really kind of tamper the threat right here. But I don't think down here there's going to be much of an issue with cloud cover down into Texas. But that's the question is, do we get a layer of low-level clouds to stick around East Texas Panhandle, western Oklahoma? If we do, tornado threat goes way down. If we don't, I think some strong tornadoes could be possible. So big question marks. And then Friday, I think that if you're going to look at the GFS, I think that this is a pretty good forecast. Other than that, there's just too much model spread. The models, as we get closer to the Friday, the models are not coming together on a solution. They're actually diverging on a solution. So yeah, Levi, after the 15th, I'm going to say this. It is possible. I think it's possible mid-month we could have a couple setups, but I'm not going to lie. I think that the cold air towards the end of the March is probably going to come back. Probably the, I don't know about the polar vortex quite, but you're probably going to get a couple of Arctic intrusions of cold air into the United States as we get into late March. The Euro actually does show that. Look at this. This is March 18th. Now, this is 2 weeks out, so who knows if this is going to happen. But look at this massive cold air mass. You got negatives up here, teens down here, very cold air for late March. So we'll have to see if that actually does end up happening. But you can see it's pretty warm out west again. It's pretty warm out to the west. So I'm sure this air mass will push over relatively quick. I think any cold blast we get in March, at least if you're down in the middle of the country, northern US, it could stick around, but at least in the middle of the country, I think you're going to get a couple of hard freezes, but I don't think it'll stick around too long. But on that note, guys, I'm going to make sure didn't miss anything. Yeah, it is kind of tragic, but if I have time, I don't know if you guys are, if some of y'all are going to be up at like 11 p.m. and I have time, I might go live tonight. Otherwise, probably tomorrow at some point if I'm not chasing. I'm watching tomorrow just in case, but I don't think a chase is very likely. But we shall see. I'm watching it just in case. But on that note, I will get out of here and I will see you guys next time. Everybody have a good rest of your day here.